Unfortunately, our society does provide the option of coasting by, living off of the very system you pretend to oppose while profiting from the work done by others. And as I've often preached, life requires work. Life is work. I wish it wasn't that way.
No one is saying that, like, you should just be able to not have to work at all in your life and just lie there. Everyone just lies as a sponge on the ground and we're all fed like the Matrix. No one actually wants to be in the pods. I mean, you want to be in the Matrix, sure, but you don't want to be in the pods. Once you realize you're in the pods, you're like, gross, slimy. This is not great. No, but like, that doesn't mean workers shouldn't be treated with dignity. That doesn't mean that if someone is basically screaming at them, being like, this was like an inverse Karen, where it was the management that was Karening out, where it's like, if you take a single sick day, I better see your dead dog, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not a way to speak to people. That's dehumanizing. Again, you're treating them like cattle, as in, like, I just fucking, you have to do what I want at all times. This is gross. Well, I want to watch this only because I'm so curious why the right is talking about this. It seems really stupid.
Now, this may surprise you, but I'm going to disagree with the majority opinion about something. I don't think of myself as a contrarian.
I'm so edgy.
Contrary to what most people say about me. But on this, I must dissent. A manager in an Olive Garden in Kansas has been fired after sending an angry email to employees telling them that they may not call out of work for any reason. And if they claim that their dog died as an excuse for coming to work, they have to bring the dead dog in as proof. Now, the manager, whose name has not been published, thankfully, was fired, and most people have applauded the decision after the email went viral. But I'm on the manager's side of this, and I'll explain why. But first, here's the story from a local...
Well, okay, Matt's kind of hard because I've told you before, the combination of probably being the most boring pundit, but also being one of the most horrifying. He has to make his horrifying juxtapose how boring he is. He's got to do them in a proper ratio because he is so unbelievably boring. And he thinks he's also really funny though. So there's times when Matt, in his fucking dry, 16-year-olds are the ideal impregnation wit kind of style, will just drawl on for a long time and then be like, and that's why I think it's totally appropriate for abortion doctors to all be lifted into hot air balloons. It looks like I triggered the left again because they're all really mad at me, big mad, because they don't realize that it's actually like a fucking CO2 gas. Funny, like that kind of shit. So he could be sarcastic. It's hard to pick up.
CBS affiliate.
Oh, sorry. My point being is I don't have a read yet as to whether he actually is doing this. Is this like a faux populist thing? Attention all team members. All call-offs are occurring at the staggering rate. From now on, if you call off, you might as well go out and look for another job. We are no longer tolerating any excuse for calling off. If you're sick, you need to come prove it to us. If your dog died, you need to bring him in and prove it to us. It's called a family emergency, and you can't say too bad. Go work somewhere else. If you only want morning shifts, too bad. Go work at a bank. If anyone out here calls out more than once in the next 30 days, you do not have a job. Do you know my 11.5 years at Darden and how many sick... This can't be real. 0. I came in sick. I got in a wreck literally on my way to work one time. Airbags went off and my car was totaled. But you know what? I made it to work on time. There are no more excuses. Us, collectively, as a management team, has had enough. If you don't want to work here, don't. It's as simple as that. If you're coming here to work, then work. No more complaining about not being cut or being able to leave early. You're in the restaurant business. Do you think I want to be here until midnight on Friday and Saturday? No, I'd much rather be home with my husband and dog, going to the movies or seeing family, but I don't. I'm dedicated to being here, as should you. No more excuses or complaints. I hope you choose to continue to work here. I think we, management, make it easy as we can on y'all. Thank you for your time, and thank you for those who come in every day on time and work hard. I wish there were more like you. Damn.
Some hyperbole there. You shouldn't actually bring a dead dog into a restaurant. This is Olive Garden, not Panda Express, for God's sake. And of course, it's conceivable that a person could have a reason to call out more than once in a 30-day period. I rarely call in sick to work, but I missed an entire week a few months ago after I lost my voice. Not a lot I can do without a voice. Though even then, I still dragged myself to work, and I recorded a segment.
I mean, there's not much you do with voice. So.
In subtitles. That's how committed I am to my job. Or it's how committed I am to trolling. You decide. Perhaps there's not much difference between the two. At any rate, the point is that there is reason to object to this manager's message to employees.
Sam Bell,
if you insist on taking
sub. Could you imagine telling people that? It's like, oh, what do you do? Well, I trolled the libs. Yeah, professionally for a career. Yeah, I really give it to marginalized communities. You know, black people, Jewish people, indigenous people, LGBTQ+. I hate them all. Hate them all. Every single one of them. So I try to make their lives worse. I do things so they have much harder lives for money. That's Maddie.
It absolutely literally. But a more charitable interpretation is that this person is trying to run a restaurant and yet is sabotaged every step of the way by spoiled, entitled brats.
Whoa, he's doing it. Okay, well, straight up. All of them, they try to do the faux populism thing, but they're not. They're not actually populists, all right? They hate people. They hate a lot of people. You think that they only hate like LGBTQ+, or they only hate fucking people who aren't cis, or they only hate black people or something like that. No, they hate a lot of people. Poor whites too. Oh yeah, no, not a fan of the poors. They do not like poor people. That's why they speak about poor people in such horrifying ways. Everything from homeless people to being filthy, disgusting bums who smell like piss, all the way up to, well, if you're working class and you don't do good in your job, you're not working hard enough. You fucking avocado eating millennial. What, are you having trouble, Zoomers, getting a job, finding a job in this market today? Is that difficult for you? Do you still live with your parents? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, entitled brats. Yeah, because they're not actually populists. They like to use faux populism. That's very different. That's when you make an oppressed class, a non-oppressed class feel like they're oppressed. And then you talk about these benevolent things like, well, the elites. The elites are coming to get us all. The elites control the media and the banks, those pesky elites, and they're coming to destroy our lives. So that's why we need to band together. But deep down, it's like, you don't actually care about workers. You don't give two fucks. How many, like... I'm going to assume, because you, like, as far as I know, his trajectory was he went from, like, being the shitty shock jock in college straight up to being, like, an unsuccessful YouTuber for a long time. Like, if you look, like, I've gone through his early catalog, the ones that are 4 years old, because they're all fucking so weird and gross, and they're endless mines of the most disgusting clips, but he keeps them up, to his credit, and, like, they get, like, 800 views. It's, like, 800, 550, 1K, 500, like, none of them have gone up since. His new fans don't go rifling through his catalog, just me. But in that area, you can see that, like, it really doesn't seem like you struggled much, Matt, in your life. I just feel like you've never had a minimum wage job, or you've never worked in the restaurant industry, because it fucking sucks. There is one element, if you're young, and I was younger, if you're young, there is this really cool sense of, like, camaraderie you have with fellow workers, the other people you work with, right? Like, I was in the dish pit, but I was fucking good friends with the cooks, I was good friends with the servers, I was good friends with everyone but management. Management, you're just like, you can fuck right off, because you always, like, it's just, you're butting heads all the time. That's the dynamic. They want to extract as much from us as they can, and vice versa. We want to steal as much from them as we can. So it's like, I got to take my 6th break right now, sir. I need it, you know, kind of shit like that. But, like, if someone at the Olive Garden is just straight up being like, if you are even sick for one day, fuck you. You have to prove it. I'm tired of you all fucking me over. Like, what about giving them more pay? What about giving them more benefits? What about giving them, do you want sick people at work to get the rest of the staff sick?
Paycheck, but don't want to put the work in to earn it. And these are frustrations shared by a great many managers in the restaurant and retail space and other industries. Call out to no.
Lance says, "No way, you're old." I'm very old. Oh yeah, I'm old. I'm like, it's pretty funny because people who don't know that, what's his face? Jason and Ruhi and the Quartering are always like, oh, this young guy, this fetus, basically is trying to tell me what to do with my fucking, fucking rape mods, but
shows are at an all-time high. And it's not because everyone's dogs are dying all of a sudden. It's not because there's a record number of family emergencies.
Government handouts.
If it's a medical emergency driving this problem, the medical emergency is a severe allergy to hard work, I think that's the real epidemic happening here. Okay. This is an affliction which has spread across an entire generation and beyond. And the people who are trying desperately to keep our economy afloat by keeping these businesses open, they're fed up and they're furious, and they should be. If I was in charge of Olive Garden, I wouldn't fire that manager. I'd give him a raise and a promotion, because this is exactly the no-nonsense, get your crap together attitude that we need.
What about just treating people who work for you or you work with as humans, not as, like, cattle? Because if you just do this mentality where it's like, oh, they're all entitled, lazy assholes. Why don't you come in, earn minimum wage, and then when you're done working, you get a little bit of sleep if you don't work a second job on your fucking phones before you get to do the whole thing again and again and again and again. So the franchise, by the way, because this is a fucking franchise, it's Olive Garden. So the Olive Garden franchise can become infinitely richer. Yeah. Hell yeah. Really, really sticking it to those low-level employees, Matt.
Now, of course, there is another side to the story. I made a condensed
difficult
version
truth.
of the
Thanks
point
for the rating party at 12.
on Twitter over the weekend, and Lauren Southern responded, disagreeing with me, saying, quote, people are fed up working jobs with no upward mobility, no living wage thanks to inflation, and no real benefit to their community. Multinational corporations. Workers don't care anymore because they...
Oh, it's Lauren Southern. Cool. People are fed up with working jobs with no upward mobility, no living wage thanks to inflation, and no real benefit to their community. Multinational corporations. Workers don't care anymore because a manager that asks you to bring your dead dog in clearly doesn't care about them either. Workers don't care anymore because a manager that asks you to bring your dead dog clearly doesn't care about them either. Lauren's playing it way better than you, Matt. Way better than you. She's doing the faux populism correctly. Fuck, she's a steep.
People are fed up working jobs with no upward mobility, no living wage thanks to inflation, and no real benefit to their community. Multinational corporations. Workers don't care anymore because a manager that asks you to bring your dead dog in clearly doesn't care about them either. Now, Lauren and I went back.
No, Lauren Southern is doing faux populism correctly. That is faux populism right there. Again, she, like Matt, does not give two fucks. Like, are you kidding me? She might have a little bit stronger ties, maybe to no, he's Anglo-Saxon white replacement theory. They're both gross. In this case, she's smarter than Matt Walsh, and she's able to be like, faux populism is going to be a much bigger winning strategy than whatever you're doing, Matt. Defending the fucking manager at the Olive Garden? Are you fucking kidding me? How many people are just hell yeah, brother, take it to low-level employees. Yeah, they shouldn't fucking trying to get breadsticks.
And forth several times, and although this breaks the rules of arguments on the internet, we still respected and appreciated each other by the end of it. And I've been a fan of Lauren's for a long time and still am. And she raises an important
you're both white nationalists. It makes sense.
Point here, which I don't fundamentally disagree with. It's true that many people are disillusioned and demoralized, and they have no hope. They're dropping out of a system that they feel is rigged against them. So she's right about that. And I made a similar point, or at least a related point, in one of my monologues last week. It's an important aspect of this problem, and it's important that we talk about it. But there are other realities which also must be acknowledged.
Well, it doesn't sound like you care about that issue at all, because your entire worldview here, people are lazy, and they should not be lazy. Entitlement. Welfare.
Because this is not a simple matter of the working class rising up against their...
I want unlimited spaghetti. Everyone wants unlimited spaghetti. Trust me, I'm with you all, okay? I too want unlimited spaghetti. But until you reach the wall on unlimited spaghetti, it's like there's a lot of categories where like you walk by a sign and it's like, all you can eat pancakes. And like, all you can eat pancakes. That sounds delightful. All the fruit compote I want. Whipped cream? Yes. 4 different maple syrups. And then like after a couple pancakes, like it's as much fucking, you realize it's just cake. It's just cake for fucking breakfast. You're just at cake and syrup. Like, you wouldn't just eat a cake for breakfast. Do you know how absurd that would be if a friend came over and gave you a full cake and they're like, eat a cake. And you're like, oh, for breakfast? Why not? Oh, what a splendid day.
Healthy oppressors. The people left holding the bag here, such as managers at Olive Garden, they're working class too.
Unlimited pizzas in the same category. I've had all you can eat spaghetti, all you can eat pizza, all you can eat pancakes. In each one of those, these are very heavy start. There's a reason it's all you can eat. There's a reason restaurants are like, there might be some people who can break the bank on this, but they'll be rare compared to the amount of people that will have a fair modest amount of this, but then probably bow out before really hurting my bottom line. If they get alcohol, oof, good day.
Picking up for them. And on that note, a few points. First, many of the workers who are giving up and throwing in the towel are young, okay, like late teens, early 20s. These are not people who've been grinding it out for years and years and have finally become exhausted by it.
Yeah, fuck them kids.
Most of the shift workers at Olive Garden, they're not going to be people in their 50s who've been slaving away for decades only to have their opportunities for greater success stolen.
Again, I assume he doesn't even do his own shopping anymore and doesn't like leave the house, because like if you go grocery shopping, like there's times when I see people are like, I believe you to be well beyond the age of retirement. Like, I don't know if this is also something that you're doing because you enjoy the social interaction, but there are times when I feel really bad or guilty because it's like, this person seems really old and they're stacking apples right now, you know? Like, this looks like a difficult job to do, especially like on a clock.
Away by various misfortunes and calamities out of their control. There may certainly be some people in that category, but a greater number are young adults in college or just out of college, or who never went to college.
Retail and food service workers are increasingly not young.
This demographic.
I mean, I wouldn't mind looking up the data on this.
And you've already stopped trying. That's a whole lot less understandable. Because you never started trying. You can't be fed up with something you've never even done. You're in your early 20s. How do you think life is supposed to go for you at that age? Do you think you're supposed to enter adulthood and immediately be rewarded with the kind of wealth and fortune and job security that most people work decades to attain? What did you expect? Working at Olive Garden sucks. Of course it does. Of course it does. No one ever said.
I'm getting mixed messages, Matt. So on one end, you haven't really, ever said anything other than there's like the woke mind virus if you go to the liberal indoctrination pedophile groomer schools. So people shouldn't go to those. They shouldn't go for higher learning, university and college degrees, because again, the woke mind virus might catch them. But if that's the case, if the woke mind virus will get you there, what are they supposed to do? Like that's the part where I'm like, most likely, if they want to have a job that isn't working in minimum wage or working in fast food, they'll probably either need specialty skills, which again would take like a trade school, like you go to do that or something like that, or you would have to go to higher learning, higher education to be able to, like, I'm sorry to tell you this, Matt, but the lawyers, the doctors, all of them, that's a lot of years. First you go for your bachelor's science, and then you get into medical school, and then you have to get your PhD. Well, then you get your master's, then you get your PhD. It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. But why don't they do that? All this entitlement? Trying to find data right now on how many people are working in fast food that are not the little kids. If you're tempted to shrug your shoulders at this brave new world, don't. Over 4 million people in the US are employed at limited service restaurants, a descriptor which includes companies like McDonald's. If every one out of every 4 jobs was automated, that's 1 million fewer job opportunities in a country where youth unemployment rate is more than 3 times the overall unemployment rate. In urban markets such as New York City and Washington, the youth unemployment rate is about 30%. These young adults who face long spells of unemployment now are at long-term disadvantage relative to their employed counterparts. One study released by the Employment Policies Institute found that high school seniors with a part-time work experience earn 20% more per year on average 6 to 9 years after graduating relative to their fellow students who didn't work. Ironically, today's minimum wage mandate for higher minimum wage will be condemning young adults to lower paid and less successful futures. I suspect the labor organizers behind the campaign for 50. Oh, Forbes. Of course. You're not giving me the data I need, though. It's the ugly truth about the $15 minimum wage. Companies will have to pay more money.
It doesn't. There's no version of working in Olive Garden that won't suck. But you got to start somewhere. You got to pay your dues.
Oh, shit. I found it. Percentage of fast food workers by age from 2010 to 2012. Percentage of all fast food workers. So 16 to 19, only 30%. Only 30%. 66% is 20 to 54. 66%. He's dead wrong on this. I mean, yes, this is old data from 2010, 2012. I don't think this is going to be reflected as in these two are going to spill all the way into this category exclusively in the next 10 years, but if I can find something over 10 years, I'll also look at that as well.
You have to work your way towards whatever it is you want. It's not going to be handed to you. A very small fraction of human beings in the history of the world have been born so wealthy that they never have to work for anything in their lives. But if you, like me, are not in that category, then there is no option but to build for yourself whatever kind of life you want.
I fucking hate this entitled shit where it's like, I am a self-made man, I blah, blah, blah. I'd love to know the behind-the-scenes story. Someone's going to do a YouTube documentary on this at some point that shows how, like, tracks the moment where Matt Walsh suddenly goes from just like 800, 1,000, 800, 500 views on all these videos. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam. So is that 100% because he built an empire from the ground on up? Every step along the way, he never had a single thing given to him, never had a single advantage, not a single... Like, you were born on the streets, you escaped an orphanage, you lived off the vermin that you found on the side of the road, you grew up homeless, but you still were capable of forging an education for yourself somehow, and then by the time you were able to enter the work environment, you had to do something uncalled for, but you begged money until you got enough money for clothes, and then enough money to go buy a shower at the local YMCA, and you cleaned up, and you got your first job, and that job gave you enough of a pay to save money to get into college. All the while you're doing this homeless, because if I entered rent into this entire equation, or really buying food, it would be very difficult to. But then at which point you graduated college, went into radio, then onto YouTube. Somehow you were able to do YouTube videos while still sustaining yourself. So either way, and then all of a sudden you were on the place. Then now you're super famous. Oh, sorry, the Daily Wire. You're in Ben Shapiro's outfit.
Or rather, there is no other respectable, honorable option. Unfortunately, our society does provide the option of coasting by, living off of the very system you pretend to oppose while profiting from the work done by others. And as I've often preached, life requires work. Life is work. I wish it wasn't that way.
No one is saying that like you should just be able to not have to work it all in your life and just lie there? Everyone just lies as a sponge on the ground and we're all fed like the Matrix. No one actually wants to be in the pods. I mean, you want to be in the Matrix, sure, but you don't want to be in the pods. Once you realize you're in the pods, you're like, ah, gross, slimy. This is not great. No, but like that doesn't mean workers shouldn't be treated with dignity. That doesn't mean that if someone is basically screaming at them, being like, this was like an inverse Karen, where it was the management that was Karening out, where it's like, if you take a single sick day, I better see your dead dog, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not a way to speak to people. That's dehumanizing. Again, you're treating them like cattle, as in like, I just fucking, you have to do what I want at all times. This shit is gross.
But it is. The only question is whether you will do the work necessary to sustain your own existence.
Motherfucker definitely went to Olive Garden recently, and the service was not to his fucking expectations. Let's just say that. The breadsticks are kind of stale. No, it's fine, honey. This is nice. It's just nice to have one day where we get to leave the home and you're not just talking about trans kids. Oh God, don't remind me. Fucking hate them so much. Why won't they let me inspect their genitals? I wrote a letter to the mayor and he's not listening, and I was like, I have an American right to inspect kids' genitals at the classroom, and I should be able to look at that, and he won't write me back. What the fuck, you know? Well, you know what they say, honey. I mean, it's weird that you have to keep bringing this up every time we go out, and Prestige spread to my mother. She really wishes you'd stop talking about it. But either way, it's lovely to be here. Then we get this.
Or if you'll find a way to force someone else to do it for you. Door number 2 was never available to most humans who have lived on the planet, but it is available for us. Okay, because as it turns out, the system that really controls things, this is what they want. They want you to be a lazy good for nothing, just coasting through life with no ambition, no real.
So how does that work, Matt? How do the captains of industry, capital will, if you will, control everything from the ground on up if no one is doing any work? You need the workers. The power is in the worker power. That's like, just if everyone stayed home and everyone just lied there and just expected life to go on as it was, like, they win. They win, you know? That's how the elites win at the end of the day.
Desires, no plan, nothing. They want you to be satisfied with being merely fed and distracted. That's what they want. So they've made this option available to us. And you think you could protest that system by doing exactly what they want?
How does the fed and distracted? Like, I get the distracted part. Okay, you can blame whatever you want. The piece of media you hate at any given time. You filled that in the blank, right? That's the Mad Lib right there. It's like, oh well, critical race theory. Yeah, that's the reason. Okay, fine. But the other one?
By becoming the sort of person they want you to be, which is like a non-person, a non-entity, just a big nothing who does nothing and it contributes nothing at all to the world. So if you walk through that door, you will be entering into a life of mere existence, mere satiation. You will not find...
This is all over fucking breadsticks. He's still going on a rant about fucking Olive Garden management. Standing up for management. Okay.
You will not find dignity. You will not find joy. And most of all, if you take door number 2, you cannot...
By the way, that's because for the most part, outside of like, you know, he got some big W's for the right to be able to be like, lol, we trolled the libs. We really sticking it to those marginalized communities, I tells you, with getting this ranked on Amazon as like, you know, a best-selling LGBTQ plus children's book until they eventually took it down. That obviously was like, you know, big W for him. Then this movie, which a lot of like, you know, let's say centrists might reference and be like, oh, like Matt Taibbi, who's like, well, this is an example of like a good comedy and satire. Definitely not a transphobic hit piece that has been completely debunked, and also very deceptive and terrible and garbage. So those things are, you know, if not for that, Matt's appeal is to very, very old fucking like Christian nationalists, because his shit is extreme. His stuff is like, well, if a young daughter was raped by the father and then the daughter was impregnated because of the rape, she should not be allowed to get an abortion because the baby will give evidence of the fact that she was raped, and that way the dad will stop raping her because the baby was born. And as soon as the baby's born, the hospital will call the police and then the raping will stop. So she may get raped for 9 months in the interim, that's true, but I haven't... Okay, well then after that it stops. After that it finally stops. So saith Matt Walsh. That's fucked up, weird ass extreme shit, you know? That's not the kind of stuff that you hear from regular old conservatives. They're like, a lot of them would kind of be like we can just say that we're pro-life. We could just say that like we believe in the sanctity of all the... Why... no, don't go there. Matt, what are you doing?
That you're fed up with the grind, that you found a more enlightened way to live. That's not the case, because you're still very much dependent on those who are in the grind, those who are doing what you will not do, and are now forced to work even harder just to subsidize you. You notice that there's employees at the Olive Garden that don't want to put the work in. They still want the paycheck, right? But in order to have a paycheck, this restaurant needs to stay open. It needs to exist. And they don't want to contribute much to making that happen. But they need someone to do it. Right? They need enough people there at Olive Garden to keep that damn place open.
Pretend to be a libertarian.
So they can keep getting the paycheck they want.
I can do that.
So they are just handing off all of those responsibilities.
Like, there's still not a lot of Republicans who think the Bible should be taught in, like, you know,
if
kids'
you want
schools.
to understand anything about art over the last 2,000 years, literature, government, philosophy, yes, even science, okay? If you want to really understand the genesis and the history and the meaning and the substance behind all of those things, you got to know something about Christianity. Because Christianity has been the driving force and the substance of all of those things.
The Bible didn't know about the germ theory of disease. You would think in its infinite wisdom, God at a certain point would be like, oh, by the way, I gotta just tell you about a little something. Something that's I'll just say pervasive. It's everywhere in a way, but you won't see it. Well, not for a while. Not for a few years. You're gonna have to invent some things. But before then, I just should warn you. It may change the course of history
for centuries. And you know, this is why, in case anyone was wondering, this is why they used to teach the Bible in public school. That doesn't mean that you were required to believe in the Bible in public school, but for a long time in public school, in secular school.
Now, this absolute traitor to America, this unpatriotic asshole who basically hates America, that's what he's saying here, basically is trying to support the fucking King of England. This is disgusting. Absolutely revolting. Whereas I, not even an American, but I know in my heart of hearts that I'm very proud of America for finally defeating Great Britain and separating this church and state. This disgusting monster. He's a traitor.
You were taught the Bible. You read the Bible in public school. And that makes a lot of sense because the Bible, I mean, it's only the most influential piece of literature ever written, hands down, and nothing else even comes close to it. So if you're going to study influential literature in school, it kind of doesn't make sense to skip over the number one. I mean, that is a huge mountain to just jump over and pretend it's not even there. It's like if you were studying mountains and you never even acknowledged Everest. That's what it's like. It's like if
Now, by the way, I'm not part of the we should censor the Bible. No one should ever read the Bible. No, people should have access to the Bible and should read the Bible if they're interested and look at it as a historical artifact. That's certainly how I approached the Bible. Back when I was in university, it was actually required reading as part of like an English lit course I was taking. It's very boring, I will say that, until you get to Revelations. Really, Revelations kick shit up. Revelations some wild stuff, just like, ooh, fever dreams. What drugs are y'all on? But like a lot of it is just like Ezekiel begat Azariah, who begat, and you're like, oh god, how long does this fucking begatting go on? But yeah, so Matt is again in that kind of like small Christian nationalist kind of category, not super popular, but this is the kind of shit that he wants to teach the kids. And these are the same people who just call anything, like if a dude puts a wig on, he's a groomer. By the way, teach this to your kids. Genesis 19 features an attempted gang rape. 2 angels arrive in Sodom, and Lot shows them hospitality. However, the men of the city gathered around Lot's house and demanded that he give them 2 guests so that they could rape them. In response to this, Lot offers the mob his 2 virgin daughters instead. The mob refuses Lot's offer, but the angels strike them with blindness. The angels. God eventually destroys the city and Lot and his family escape. Genesis 19 goes on to relate how Lot's daughters get him drunk and have sex with him. Lot's daughters get him drunk and have sex with him. As a result, the eponymous ancestors of Moab and Ammon, recurring enemies of Israel, were born. I don't think you should be teaching little kids that they're going to burn in hell and be tortured for all eternity if they don't study this shit. I think that's child abuse. I think that's legitimate child abuse. You can definitely definitely give kids trauma if you have them going to bed at night thinking there's a reality in which they will burn forever. Forever. It's not even like it will never stop. You know that really painful feeling when you put your hand on the stove? That all the time, forever. Forever. Endless pain. You can never stop it. So you better play the game. You better play the game and well, because the stakes could not be higher. Yeah, and there's no cheat codes. No. So good luck. Good luck. Try to have a fulfilling, happy life too, in addition to all that. They're gross. If I can summarize my thoughts on Matt Walsh.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demel, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tao, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojak, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.